Hello, what is going on? And welcome, or possibly welcome back to Marvel Spank. Now, this is the second video I've done, and the first one that you may or probably haven't actually seen was for the first 4 episodes. Now I thought, well, this isn't actually that bad. The critics were panning it, and what was the bizarre twist of the critical reviews were that they were saying it was racist because a white man knew martial arts. That because this hero of sorts knew martial arts, he had to be from the East. Well, that's racist. Bizarre. Anyway, I'm going to try and pop a link to the first video here. Nothing there, is there? I've done this now. I don't know how to put the link up there. I don't know why I did that. Bizarre. Again, you know, wait for it. So anyway, that was the first 4 episodes. Now we're going to do a little talk about episodes 5 and 6, and it basically pulls together, in contrast, the best bits and the worst bits of the series so far. Now, Episode 5 I thought was great as a construct and what it did with the characters and the way it developed them and sort of supposed their fatal flaws, which may develop later in the series to either their undoing or a secret strength. Specifically, I was most impressed with the works done and the dichotomy for the Meacham siblings. Now we saw that having total control was something that Joy wasn't happy with, and that she was having an inner turmoil with how she dealt with the family, with their relative dying of sickness from the power plant. It didn't sit easy with her that she had the ultimate control. However, with Ward, when the ultimate control was taken away from him, that he had, that created uncertainty and drove him towards the drugs. Now, I thought it was great that they'd been teasing this little bit by little bit in all the previous episodes, and then boom, 5 and 6, here he is, full blown. Although, Jesus Christ, when he banged his hand in the car door, that was absolutely ridiculous, the fucking mess of it. It was like the dashboard and the panelling in his car was made out of ivory, except it wasn't just the horn, it was the full fucking rhino that had slammed the door into his hand. It was a fucking mess. It was like a balloon animal stuck to his wrist. But I'm getting off the point. I actually quite like their characters because up to this point there had been a sort of more of a mass plural, as they were sort of one and the same and together as the same sort of characterisation as a sort of double act. But as I said, the dichotomy in their characters split them apart in this one into the portrayal of their natural flaws. Now, the problem I do have with them is that usually in a brother and sister, or indeed any sibling act, there's usually one strong and one weak. Usually there is the weaker one that's trying to latch onto the coattails of the elders' achievements, or trying to outdo them, or maybe feel downtrodden because he can never match them. The problem with these two very attractive young individuals is that there's all this brooding tension and bubbling under the surface. I feel that this brother and sister, because they're not, they're just actors, are this close to fucking each other. And it's weird. It kind of worked on Game of Thrones, but I don't feel like it would be suitable if we did a step 2 and opened the door and there they were, surreptitiously bringing each other to climax with a jumbo chorizo and a 2-finger Kit Kat. Why the Kit Kat? That's because if you're getting fucked with a chorizo, you might want a snack. But it wasn't just the Meacham siblings that we saw this character development. I liked the way that with the introduction of Claire Temple, that she came into the relationship with Danny and Colleen and it made it, it changed the dynamic, and it pushed Colleen into being more sympathetic with the naivety and lack of experience that Danny had. Now, while that helped progress the story, because as Claire was slightly undermining, a little bit condescending with Danny's lack of life experience, forcing Colleen to sort of put her arm around him and say, well, in actual fact, dude, it's alright that you haven't banged any chicks, because I'm going to be your friend. And secret spoiler, I will fuck you in the next couple of episodes. What? So anyway, Claire Temple pushes the dynamic around from Colleen and Danny from being up against each other to now being pushed into a union, into a single-minded purpose. Now, what surprised me about Claire Temple at this point is that she was so dismissive, despite the fact it developed the plot. She was so dismissive of the fact that he was the Iron Fist. When he says, "What's the Iron Fist?" and she says, "I'm the Iron Fist," and she says, "Well, what the fucking hell's that?" She's boiled a black man in acid, and she's also taking care of a blind man that kicks quite a lot of ass. You would think that the prospect of a kung fu master from Kunlun, are we really calling it Kunlun? Have I been mispronouncing it up to this point? Kunlun, we're going with Kunlun. Yeah? We're sticking with Kunlun. Okay. So when he says he's come from Kunlun, and she's so dismissive of it, I would have thought from her personal experience of just the immediate area in her life experiences, she might be slightly more accepting of the fact that there's a Kung Fu Jedi Master what in front of her. But she doesn't accept it. Fair enough. The other problem that I have with the position that they put Claire Temple in is that she knows a certain individual called Daredevil. And this Daredevil fella has had a run-in with a hand before. They are specifically dangerous individuals. She has had first-hand experience of this. The first mention of the hand, you would have thought she'd got on the phone, called Daredevil and said, "Get your ass over here, they're trouble!" She doesn't do that. She's just like, "Okay, whatever. I'm out. This is too ridiculous for me. I've got some more black people to boil in acid." Or any race. Any race. She could boil anyone she wants in acid. It does not matter. That was what she did the one time. Could have been any. Does not matter. Doesn't matter. Moving on. I also like the way that when Colleen sides with Danny, that his naivety up to this point has only played out in his callowness, his lack of experience, his inacceptance of the world around him. But now that callowness is putting through to a single-mindedness and direct action of someone as per a child that hasn't failed, the bravery that comes with that. Looking at the other Marvel Netflix programs, is that in a lesser extent they are to some level believable. As characters, take away the superpowers and the exaggeration and put it into a more common place that we know. You could imagine somebody sticking up for their neighbourhood or overcoming an abusive relationship. And the problem with Iron Fist is that there's nothing. It's sheer fantasy, and I think it struggled to make it street level and to leave it believable and put it into a central crux of real world experience and make it work. And this is where Ward really comes into his role. He acts as a window for us, the viewers. As we see in this episode, is when he's following Danny round so he makes it to the meeting, he is treating him with undermining skepticism and disbelief. Now, we get the first real jeopardy introduced, the first actual peril and danger in the final moments, the action scene, and there's something new. It did feel a lot like it could have been something in Daredevil. With the container fight. It was new and it was an exciting idea. And what it also allowed was a lack of hand-to-hand experience that Finn Jones had. It allowed him to, with the movement of the container, it allowed for clumsy clumsy fight scenes to actually look intentionally clumsy and believable in that. It also put, as I said, the story in its first real jeopardy, hard, tough decision making where there is no real winner. This is how we get to know our characters and why we love them so deeply, because it's overcoming adversity that makes them such good protagonists. Now, that's wrapping up episode 5. I was fucking excited at that point. I was like, what, this is really getting going. I don't know what those reviews were saying. They said it was fucking awful. But this is actually dope. It's going well. Episode 6 happened. What the fuck, everyone? What the fuck, everyone? If you're Netflix, you know how bad that 6th episode is. Why give that to people to review? It was absolutely awful. Like, I was shocked. It's when they had him going through that building with the fight scene, it was like, in their minds, they must have perceived it as the Punisher getting out of prison. That was so sick in Daredevil Season 2. The corridor scene in Daredevil, that's what made you go, oh my god, this shit is serious! Like, you could watch that over and over again. But this was so bad. Like, there was no prep time for this. Finn was learning fight scenes on 12 to 14 hour days 15 minutes before and doing them in one take, and they've tried to get around it with choppy editing and using different camera angles, and the whole premise of this kind of 1990s sort of 2D scrolling beat 'em up just didn't work on any level. There's a nunchuck scene at the beginning. I had nunchucks as a child. I used to think I was sick with them. Looking at this shit that Colleen and Danny did in this. Oh my god, I should have had a black belt or something. The nunchuck scene was pathetic. Pathetic. Showrunner on this was Scott Buck. Okay, and he's been drafted into Inhumans, which is already shooting. Jeff Loeb, the head of Marvel TV, parachuted him out of this series and wrapped it up so he could start filming on the much bigger budget Inhumans. It is absolutely atrocious. There was no, you can tell in these fight scenes they were rushed. There was no production, there was no pre-production.